Want to say welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tony Hollis Live Talk Show Testify. We're going to get started in just a little bit. Got a good show for you today. Going to be talking about some landlord tenant eviction in terms of what is your right. So just sit tight, and we shall be coming back to get this show started. Okay, so just sit tight. Well, we back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tony Hollis Live Talk Show Testify. We're going to be talking about some issues that's going down in Osceola, Arkansas, um, housing units or apartments, what have you. There have been some complaints down in that area with evictions, tenants believing that their um, rights is somewhat being violated in terms of tenant rights. And so those are some things that we're going to talk about. And I do have a guest with me today is going to be speaking on exactly what is the legal process in terms of when it comes to evicting tenants away from their apartment or house. Okay. But before we get started, just want to send out a few um, announcements. Um, well, not really announcements, just want to speak on some issues. One of them being the Blava school system. The Blava school system, again, it seemed like they're still having some problems with the bus drivers. The bus drivers and the Blava school board and superintendent, it seemed like they still have some money disputes. Um, there is I don't know what's her title, whether she's the uh, treasury of, of payroll or what, but I did try to get some understanding from that person. I sent out an FOI, uh, which it should have been due this past Friday, but nevertheless, this person has chose not to answer my FOI. This lady who handled payroll, she claimed that she had been given, I guess, the approval to decrease the bus driver's pay from $20 to $11, although there is no information that I have that uh, that will somewhat instruct her to do that. And so we need to know where is the information uh, coming from that she have in her possession, if she have any information, because the school board at that point in time, uh, they stated and on record that they do not recall reducing the pay from $20 to $11 sitting time for the bus drivers. Now, um, there is a 2022, 23 contracts that were signed uh, with the Blava School District, Blava School District and bus drivers, and that somewhat has been a breach. They have somewhat put aside the 22, 23 contract that was signed with the bus drivers, and they somewhat done jumped ahead of themselves with the approval going from $20 to $11. They did at some point did take a vote, but that contract is supposed to be before the 23-24 school year. So the question is, why is the school board uh, jumping ahead and reducing their pay from $20 to $11 for sitting time when there is a contract that is already in force? And I think many of you know who have uh, any types of contract agreement that both parties on both sides agree to a specific thing, that it be service, that it be some type of action that is taken. They both agree on it. They both sign on it. If there's any changes to be made to that contract that is in force, both parties must agree. That's not what happened here. They have completely dissolved the 22-23 contract, although the school year is not over. So uh, I'm hearing that there is some litigation that may take place from that. And so uh, please, you got a school board member, talk to your school board member and have them to do right by the bus drivers who transport our children to school and from school safely. Safely. Okay. Um, there might have been something else that I had to announce. Yes, I don't have the date, but there is a amnesty uh, event that's coming up. Amnesty is just simply for those of you who might have outstanding fines or what have you. Uh, if you have outstanding fines, I don't know about failure to appear, but I do know outstanding fines. They have an event coming up where they will give you an opportunity to attend this amnesty event that they are to be having, and that will give you an opportunity to, I guess, get a fresh start, to go ahead and take care of whatever old fines that you may owe. We'll be getting back with you on that date. I'm posting on my page sometime this week. But please, um, quit hiding out and do get down to that event and take care of whatever fines that you may owe. Okay. Uh, so I think that's pretty much all of it that I have. But anyway, we're going to be talking about, as I indicated, some tended eviction notices. Now, actually, it started out with, and let me put this disclaimer up here again. Um, uh, since we're talking about public as well as some private businesses, my disclaimer, this podcast is to allow guests and viewers to express themselves on a wide variety of topics and to have open discussions and to share their opinions with the host. These are their words, as I indicated, and they are sharing their words with the host. Their words do not represent uh, uh, of the host. Okay, so we got that disclaimer out of the way. So again, we have one set of apartments down there. I think it's called the Oak Grove Apartments. The citizens down there, they've been giving me all different types of calls or what have you. I have made several calls to the local office, which I have not been fortunate enough to make contact with the property manager for the Osceola uh, housing units called Oak Grove. For some reason, I left messages. I still can't get the property manager to return my message. However, I did call the corporate off call the corporate office, excuse me, in Little Rock, and I have spoken to two people. And so hopefully, as I understand, there's a petition uh, that is in circulation, and hopefully there are also complaints that have been filed against the Sun Belt uh, housing units. But these particular apartments that I'm talking about is located in Osceola, Arkansas, and they are apartment units. Okay. Let me want to make sure if I don't know if I'm live over here. I want to see if I can, I don't see any, let me see. I don't see any comments over here. So I just want to make sure I'm live because when we start opening up the comments, I want to make sure that uh, that we're live. Okay. So let me move over here, navigate for a minute, and won't take me but a minute. Just want to make sure that we are live. I mean, public. Excuse me. So that's what I'm doing now. Once I check this, and then we go ahead and bring my guests on. All right. So let's see. Oh, and we are public. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So now back to my back to the show again. I'm bringing on a gentleman who can speak to us and talk to us and let us know exactly how does this process work. So without any other further ado, I want to go ahead and bring on my guest, Chief Virgil Green. He's from uh, I want to say Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm gonna let him give a little introduction of himself. This is uh, a man who really wanted the opportunity to be the chief of police for the Osceola, Arkansas community, but unfortunately, there were one or two city council people who um, thought to go another direction. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring on Sheriff, that's Sheriff, Chief Green, and let him go ahead and tell a little bit about himself. Chief Green,
Hey, Mr. Hollis, how you doing, sir?
how about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking me to come on your podcast show.
Oh, you're always welcome, and like I say, tell us a little bit about your job that you have. Now, I understand that when you left Osceola, you walked right into a position. You're serving as chief of police. Is that in Minneapolis?
Yes, sir. So, for those who are tuning in and listening, uh, my
Mm-hmm.
name is my name is Virgil Green. I'm actually from Oklahoma City.
Uh-huh.
When I applied for the police chief position back in Osceola, I actually the position was offered uh, to me by, I don't know if she still is the mayor, uh, uh,
No, they have a different mayor now.
different mayor.
Right.
So I everything it was offered to me, I had accepted it and was looking forward to becoming the police chief in Osceola. And apparently there were some other uh, council members who I don't know if they're still on the council now, but
Oh, there been some changes there as well.
okay, all right. So several council members uh, rode the mayor's decision to bring me in as the police chief, and I think some of that had to do with me being the police chief in Helena, West Helena, where I
Hmm.
was the police chief there from 2015 to about 2017, and so um, uh, that offer, I basically, rescinded the offer to become the police chief in Osceola, and several months later, I went through a national job search for a police chief position in the Minneapolis Twin City area, and became the first Black police chief in the history of the city that I'm in now, which is Golden Valley, the city of Golden Valley, which is a suburb of Minneapolis. And so, yeah, so actually, Mr. Hollis, it was almost a kind of a blessing in disguise that opportunity in Osceola didn't happen, which led to uh, an opportunity in the Minneapolis Twin Cities area, where obviously where the salary is a whole lot different,
All right.
much bigger police department. Um, so yeah, so there again, it was obviously
I
God.
imagine the weather is pretty cool there too.
Well, I tell you what, I was not. I was not expecting the type of winter that they have up here.
Uh-huh.
I've told people that since I've been up here, I wish that was a part of the interview process when they talked about how much it snows and how cold it gets up in Minnesota. So I've survived one winter, and I'm definitely not looking forward to another winter. But uh, it's definitely an experience.
All right then. Uh, as I stated when I opened up, look like we got two situations going on now down in the Osceola area. We have there seem like there's a private business, Sunbelt, I think is the name of it. Have some apartments out there called Oak Grove, and also then they have some complaints with the housing authority uh, in Osceola as well, to where tenants have been somewhat released. Um, I wouldn't say released, evicted, or they going through the process, that is. And some believe that the evictions they haven't been served properly. Then there's others who believe that uh, the process in itself um, is somewhat unfair in terms of policies. There's one um policy, if you want to call it a policy. I understand that not the housing authority, but this other apartment complexes called Oak Grove. They even gave them a curfew. I think it was like 10 o'clock. Grown folks have to be inside their apartment, or there will be, you know, they will be reprimanded. I wouldn't say reprimanded, but
or
they
some
will face
consequences.
some type of, uh, I won't say disciplinary action, but I just say penalties. They
Hmm.
will face some type of penalty if they break that 10 o'clock curfew policy. And so children bicycles have been, according to the complainants, uh, have been thrown over in the trash dumpster because maybe they've been left out. Um I don't know if it's outside of their apartment range, but the attendant indicated that the bicycles are somewhat near their apartment. Just been so many things going on there, and so um, I just want you to pretty much talk to us about the process. I know we have the laws different there as opposed to here, but like you did serve as police officer in, what was that, West Helena?
Yeah, I served as a police chief in Helena, where there was public housing, but also uh, prior to becoming a police chief in Oklahoma City, I served for about six years with the Oklahoma City Housing Authority and Enforcement Division, which took care of the policing of the public housing in Oklahoma City.
Okay, and so just somewhat walk us through it. If you have a situation on your hand where um, someone is being evicted, and let's just say a particular landlord comes to you uh, wanting some type of assistance to get uh, the the people out of their property. Uh, is there any? At what point do you all become involved?
I think when law enforcement gets involved, and let me say this, I think every state has different laws when it comes to, you know, property removal of a person, whether it be in um, especially in a private apartment complex. Obviously, public housing, those are different types of processes that people go through.
Uh huh.
But let's just say if you live in a normal apartment complex or a house that you're leasing from someone, and that landlord gives you a notice to vacate the property, and he gives you 10 days or 42 hours, whatever it may be.
Uh huh.
Uh, if you don't uh, move out of the property, then that landlord can notify, a uh, police department or local sheriff department to assist with the vacate of that person from that property. One of the things that I shared with you prior to your show is that Arkansas is one of the states that has some very strict laws when it comes to vacating people from their properties. Probably
Mhm.
the most strictest in the country, where you can be evicted, and it becomes, if you don't remove yourself from the property, it it becomes a criminal offense. So in most states, it's just a civil matter where you're going to go to court, and let's say you move out of the property and you don't go to court.
Mhm.
In most states, uh, that's the end of it. But in Arkansas, what is very disturbing is the fact that if you don't even show up to court, now that becomes a failure to appear, which is a criminal offense.
Okay. Well, and speaking of the criminal offense, but before it get to a criminal offense, um, after they've been given, notice that they need to vacate or eviction or what have you, now you would agree that there is a process in terms of, let's just say they are contesting the eviction for
The
whatever
eviction,
reason.
yeah, hmm,
Uh, Now, at that point, um, they will, I guess they will, I don't know if they walk in and verbally speak with the landlord or the property manager, or they start a paper trail. But in any case, if they have made a decision that they're not going anywhere, at that point, it's up on the landlord to go ahead and move with serving them some type of uh, summons and a complaint, uh, and informing them that they're taking some type of legal action to remove them. Uh, that's if they respond. But I understand what you're saying. If they just somewhat disregard, in most cases, if you don't pay the rent in 5 days, I think that's what it is. If you don't pay the rent in 5 days, that's when they start serving you with a 3-day notice to vacate the property. And if they do not respond, although uh, they have at the same time they have not paid the rent, and they 5 days out, now they have the 3-day uh, uh, eviction notice. If they don't respond in a timely manner, uh, contesting the eviction, I think at that point, if I read correctly, that's when they are occupying the property illegal, and it becomes a criminal
a criminal matter. Yeah,
criminal matter, correct?
yeah.
But so
Where
long as they within that timeline where they, let's just say if they got 3 days to reply, but in most cases I think it's 10 days. First they give you a 3-day notice to evict, and I think somewhere like in 10 days, it's up to the tenant to take it upon him or herself to, I guess, try to go through some type of appeal with the landlord or with the property manager. And if that fail, so they make a decision: do they pack up and leave, or do they stay and try to go ahead and resolve the matter, and going through at that point it become a civil matter, correct?
Yeah, well, it becomes a civil matter. It's still a civil matter, and then also you still got the element where it becomes a criminal matter. So and I think that to make the difference between the two, you have to separate the private owned apartment complex versus the federal subsidized public housing uh, complex. So they're both of those two have two separate ways that they handle their evictions. And so
Okay.
let's say if you live in a private owned uh, house, or you live in a apartment complex, um, then that landlord or whoever, that property management company, they serve you with the notice to vacate the property, and they have filed that with the courts, and you have a court date. Now you can go to court and plead your case with the judge as to why you shouldn't vacate the property, and the property owner will also tell the judge this is why they're bringing you to court. Now, if it's over because you're not paying your rent, then you're going to have a really hard time trying to win your case. But let's just say it's related to something else that's in the lease. And this is one of the things that's really important, Mr. Hollis, is that whether it's a private lease or a lease with the housing authority, you really need to read the language in that lease and the laws
I agree.
that says what you have rights to and what you don't have rights to. Because and I'll tell you this, when working in the housing authority in Oklahoma City, uh, so many people don't read those lease agreements, and you're pretty much giving up your rights because now the housing authority has sole rights over that apartment or even a house that's in that's a public housing. So you have very limited rights, but it's very important to read the lease for whether it's in a private or in a public housing authority.
Okay, let's talk about this. I did have a chart that I wanted you to look at. Let's see
Okay.
if I can put that back up. Uh, Now, this chart right here, uh, it also gets some eviction and income based housing. Okay. Now,
Section 8. Yeah.
yeah, Section 8, things like that, where it say, right here, it say, I'm reading a little bit of it. It say federal subsidized housing includes several programs used wisely throughout the nation. These programs include project-based Section 8 vouchers, tenant-based Section 8 vouchers, low-income housing tax credit, homes, and other programs to receive funding from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, in other words. If
Mhm.
you receive housing through one of the rental programs listed above, then you cannot be evicted without good cause. And so, I guess if we just look at that, uh, Chief Green, uh, so if I'm a private uh, developer or landlord or what have you, uh, I'm I have to also comply with federal uh, laws. That is, if I am participating to where I'm receiving funding uh, on a federal program, just like Section 8, HUD, and all this here, uh, that landlord must oblige or comply with those areas that I mentioned in terms
Yeah.
of you know somewhat being a high bar to evict people who are either living in poverty or right above the poverty line.
Yeah.
Look like the bar's a little high for them, and so uh,
Well, well,
how do
it
you
is.
address a situation like that when you go out when you have uh, a person who is participating in a federal housing program? Uh, so what happened at that point?
So Section 8 or Section 8 vouchers are totally different than your regular rental agreement or even
Uh-huh.
your public or living in public housing, because now that landlord has agreed to certain terms that they have to follow because they're receiving some of their money from Section 8. The tenant is only paying you know maybe 10% or 20% of the rent, but the landlord is receiving the majority of their money from that tenant who has a Section 8 voucher. So
Okay.
that now they have to follow some very strict guidelines as to when it comes to try to evict somebody, because they've got to show cause to why they want to evict that person. And if they
According to
don't,
according to
yeah,
the rules, they say good cause.
good cause. And if they don't, then that's where you get inside of a courtroom, and a judge, if a person has done their homework, and if a person has their all their documentation in place, then they can win their case in you know into where that property owner, which is a private property owner, cannot
Uh-huh.
evict you from that property. Just let's just say, you got a landlord who says, "Hey, I just don't like you. I don't want you in my house, and I'm going to evict you." Well, if a person has one of those Section 8 HUD vouchers, then that's pretty hard because now what that tenant who's in that house, what they can do, they can go to the whatever they got their Section 8 voucher from and file a complaint with that agency. It may be a housing authority or it may be a private organization who is getting federal funds to provide those Section 8 vouchers as well.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about filing a complaint before we close the show out. Just giving those tenants who do have uh, a valid reason to, stating why they shouldn't be evicted, and so we're going to share some information with them in terms of where to go to file a complaint. Uh, I wanted to touch base on. Let me go back to my banner here. Right here again, if we'll read, you know, it mentioned, what is a good cause? We were talking about you can't, those people who participate in what I call in a protective type blanket cover, if you will, up under the federal program, those tenants. It's a good cause include, let me see if I can take this up one. It's a serious or repeated violation of the condition of the lease. Okay, a violation of applicable federal, state, and local laws. Other good causes defined in your lease agreement. Okay, good cause does not include immorality. Your landlord cannot evict you merely because your lifestyle, uh, I guess, where is that, does
That
not
doesn't fit
fit
their
their
lifestyle.
moral beliefs.
Hmm.
Exercising rights, joining a tenant council, filing a complaint against your landlord, or exercising rights in any other way should not result in eviction. And I'm hearing this is something what is going on. I'm not saying that this is going on at either one of the housing units in Osceola, but I have heard complaints to where tenants have uh, they're afraid to sign anything. They're afraid to even make complaints at times uh, against their landlord for fear of retaliation that they may be evicted. And so, could you just expound upon that uh, a little bit? Do you run into much of that to where the as you getting ready to, you know, remove someone from a piece of property who where a writ of execution has been served. Have you ran into any type of cases like that?
Very few, but I will say this that when you talk about the good the that a property owner or management company has to have good cause
Hmm.
to evict somebody. And when you talk about, let's say you got a property owner or a landlord who says, "Hey, they found out that you are um, that the home is being occupied by you know two women or two men,
Uh-huh.
somebody of the LGBTQ community." And they just don't like that. That's just against their beliefs. Well, they cannot evict you from that property based on that. That becomes discrimination. And
Yeah.
so people can file a complaint with their either with their state attorney general's office or with their uh, with the public housing uh, agency. Uh, but I will say that when it comes to, and this is the thing that I personally don't like as being a police chief, is that landlords will get law enforcement officers involved in evictions. Uh, that is not the place for police officers, and because it's not our job to show up to somebody property just because they don't like that property, because now that police officer, they don't fully understand why this person is being evicted, and this person is saying, hey, I haven't done anything, this person is trying to evict me. And let's say they did go to court, Mr. Hollis, and they got a judge to that says, hey, now here's a piece of paper to where you have to get out of my
That piece of
property.
paper you're talking about, I want to put that up. You were talking about a writ of execution,
Writ of execution, yeah. And and
and
so and
and they
so
must have that document
in
before
order,
the sheriff or the chief of police or whomever can remove those, uh, the people from
people from
their
property.
property. They would have to have that writ.
Yeah, yeah. And if you
Okay.
don't have that writ of execution, then you know, I've told police officers to get in your car and drive away, because we're not going to sit there and argue with the property owner uh, about trying to remove that person from their property. So if you don't have a writ of execution, um, you need to go to court and get one.
There you
Uh,
go. I just
so
wanted to make that perfectly clear. Um, we been having complaints to where, as I indicated earlier before we started the show, to where a particular landlord or a particular property manager, the way that they have been serving eviction uh, notices is that they just go up to the door. Yeah, I don't know if they tape it on there or just stick it in the crack of the door or what have you. Uh, and I guess they just assume that uh, they're going to see it, not thinking that someone could come by and knock it off or what have you. And so, person come home and not seeing that piece of paper that's stuck on the door or whatever, they have no idea that they've been served. And so, I guess that's the purpose of why, when you're serving someone with an eviction notice, it must comply with how the state law indicates that it should be carried out. Wouldn't you agree?
yes, sir, I would. And I think, that's one of the things that somebody, and you got some shady property owners. I mean, you got some shady managers. You got some people who are even in public housing. Um,
Uh-huh.
they don't follow the rules the way they want to follow the rules. And so, if you're gonna serve somebody, you need to make sure that that's a in-person service, to where that person actually knows that they have what legal rights they have and what legal rights they don't have. And so, with any time you're being served with something, you should have the right to appear before a judge, or even appear before to appeal that eviction
Mm-hmm.
with the Public Housing Authority board. Because, and this is something else, just to kind of touch on real quick, is that every city has their own public housing authority, and that city hires their director to operate their housing authority.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that director reports to a board. That's who hires the executive director over that public housing authority. So people still have a way to appeal those decisions to that board. And if that board decides to overturn the property, on the property, whoever is operating the property, then that's another way for people to make sure that their rights are being protected and they're not being discriminated against, because you've got a person who works for the housing authority, who, and this is one of the things I've seen, Mr. Hollis, is where you may have somebody who is living in an apartment, and all of a sudden here's a family member, or here is a friend of this person. Now they say, hey, this person needs a place to stay,
Mm-hmm.
so now we're going to get rid of you to let somebody else move into that apartment. And they just make up whatever, wild allegations to get that person out of that apartment, or even
Mm-hmm.
that house.
Okay. Well, and I think what you was talking about, if I may go back over here, uh, to where it say, some of the good causes that is that to evict you, if you don't pay the rent, that is just cause
That
to
is just cause.
evict
Yeah.
one. However, if you miss your payment, you will probably be able to avoid eviction by arranging to pay the landlord. You
Correct.
must let your landlord know as soon as you see that a personal hardship will prevent you from paying on your rent. And pretty much say the same thing, falsifying information and breaking the law. You can be evicted if your landlord discover that false information regarding your criminal history was submitted. An important fact is whether the initial application re- requested criminal history information. And we talked about some other things to where uh, notice requirement, where you was speaking about an administrative
Administrative
hearing.
hearing. Yeah.
Uh, and right here, and if they are participating in a federal assistance housing program, that should be a given. That should be something that the tenant should be entitled to. It's a usually the notice must meet the standard of both the lease and the state law. Arkansas law requires at least 3-day notice. And we talked about that earlier. 3-day notice for non-payment of rent. Once notice has been given, then landlord can begin the unlawful detainment process. You should expect to see the following: the date when your lease agreement terminates. They should read that lease as you indicated. The reasons for the termination. When you can request an administrative hearing. You talked about that concerning the termination. Administrative hearings are not available for all housing programs. Remember to read your eviction notice carefully. And so, the last thing that is an eviction is a legal process to get the court permission to allow law enforcement to focus to force you to leave your home. A termination of housing assistance is a legal process which end your rental assistance payment. If you are a part of the housing choice voucher program, a termination of assistance does not necessarily mean you are being evicted. However, it does mean that you will owe your landlord the full amount of rent. You should always read your notices to understand the process you are involved in. Where can you go for help? Uh, if you have any questions concerning good cause eviction or requesting a grievance, that is, hearing, contact the Center of Arkansas Legal Services or Legal Aid of Arkansas by calling our helpline number. And so they pretty much giving you some information, places that you can call or what have you. Uh, if you feel like you're being wrongfully evicted. And so right now we're going to take a pause. I want to see if we got anyone that's going to call in, maybe to uh, make a statement about their experiences, or they could be facing a situation now where they have been served with uh, a notice to vacate the property. And so we're going to give them a few seconds to call in to see if there's anything that they would like to ask you, perhaps a question in regard to uh, your experiences going out serving eviction, not serving evictions, but somewhat assisting the person who has the wit of execution to try to have their property returned to them. Uh, and so I'm going over here to the board first to see if we got any comments uh, on the board. Uh, don't see any comments. Just seeing we have two viewers who, I think everybody probably in the NBA game. It's playoffs going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Everybody's probably watching
yeah.
one of the playoff games tonight.
Oh yeah. And so I think I recorded mine. So when I get off, I'll be going, doing the playback.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh, but yeah, it don't take very long for them to to call in. We got about maybe right at 15 minutes.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get someone to call in. Uh, I did send out a few notices to uh, throughout the week, letting them know that this was going to happen today, and so hopefully they will tune in. I will say though, I do have while those who are still looking on, I want to also give them a oops, let me go back. It's a website, or shall I say a link, uh, if I can find it. Now, this is the one, this link right here. For those of you who feel that you might have been a victim of housing discrimination, that is the link that you can tap into, and you can actually do your complaint online with Hood. Okay. Uh, did we did find out last week that they did get some complaints from Osceola, but they informed the complainants that it's probably going to be I wouldn't say a long process, but they do uh, have a full plate, and so there's no timeline as to when they uh, may get back with you. My understanding, when you file a complaint, uh, they won't give you a reference number, where you can track your case. They won't give you a reference number until your case come up and they're getting ready to conduct, whatever investigation that they have to. That's when you would get your reference number, okay? But that is the number for, I want to say this is the number for those uh, who speak English, Americans, that is. And they also have a website for those who speak Spanish, okay? That is the website there for Spanish. I'll leave that there for a while. Uh, let you all go ahead and write that down. Uh, if I have any viewers who know someone who don't speak English, and you can help them fill out this application online. Okay, so you can come back and look at that. Uh, once we conclude the show, you can just go back and just play back, and you can go ahead and get those links. Okay. Well, Chief Green, uh, look like everybody is all booked up in this NBA game, and we hadn't got one call yet. Uh, and
Kind of
so,
happens sometimes.
we got the hour is nearly over. We got about maybe 12 minutes, and so we're gonna kill this time, this 12 minutes. But if we don't get anyone to come on, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this show up. Is there anything else
Okay.
that any other information that you can give? Uh, to those tenants who feel like they might be, treated unfairly in regards to, uh, unfairly being evicted from their homes.
Yeah. One of the things I'll say, uh, a lot of people don't document their conversation with these landlords or people who are managing these properties. So the more you're able to make notes and document
Uh huh.
every time
I
you
agree.
interact with the landlord or with a property management
Uh huh.
person, uh, it, then that just shows that you are when it does come time for you to go to court, or when it comes time for you to go before somebody to appeal your eviction, and you've got a lot more documentation than what the landlord has, or even the person managing that property has. That judge is going to uh, most likely going to look at that information very close, and may side with you just because you took the time to document every single
Oh,
time you
I agree.
uh, interacted with that person. So that's something that people really need to do. And just as I stated before, make sure that you read every fine print in that lease agreement as to
Totally agree.
what your rights are, because there is The landlord. I mean, there is a tenant act, just like the landlords have their act. There is a tenant act that gives you as a tenant um, the rights to that property. Even though you're leasing that property, you still have some rights to that property. And so, but the one thing I do want to touch on real quick is for those seniors who are living in public housing. Oftentimes we see in law enforcement where a grandmother is letting her grandson or granddaughter come and stay in the apartment. They may not be on the lease,
Mm-hmm.
and now all of a sudden you've got a lot of activity coming in and out of that apartment, and it may be some illegal activity. And
Uh-huh.
now that grandmother finds herself being evicted from an apartment that she's been in for decades. There's very little protection that grandmother has because of the actions of her family members, whether it be a grandson or a daughter or somebody else in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real important for our seniors to understand that if you're living in a public housing development, uh, you really need to know that those are certain things that cannot occur uh, in public housing authority in a public housing unit. Uh, it, it cannot even occur in a private unit, but there's much more stricter laws when it comes to uh, individuals that are living on a housing authority property. And and
Uh,
and also, I think there's multiple properties that we're talking about. You mentioned the Section 8 vouchers. You've got
uh-huh.
those which is federal subsidized. Then you got the private property owner who may be leasing a house or maybe leasing an apartment. Then you
Mm-hmm.
have the housing authority, which is totally separate from the Section 8 vouchers because now the housing authority, they may have apartments uh, and they have the most stricter uh, tenant rights than the other two.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say this here before we got a few minutes here, and it was one thing that I neglected to include in that group. I want to go back, uh, if I may. Uh, this is a service member protected. Service members, they are protected from eviction. We're talking about those individuals who serve in the
In
military,
the military.
uh, and their family is back home. Uh, their families are protected from evictions. I wanted to send that out. This is something that went out December the 14th, 2016. And it just simply read, it just goes, it say the service member Civil Relief Act, SCRA, okay? It say enacted in 2023 when it was adopted, offer certain protections to service members of the armed forces and their families so that service members can focus their full attention on the military responsibility without adverse consequences for themselves or their families. The law also help to ease financial burdens on service members and their families. One key section of the SCRA protect service members from eviction, and it just goes on to talk about that next paragraph there. Got a little stuff in the way there. It says a landlord may not evict. Let me read that again. A landlord may not evict a service member or dependents from a home that is used as a residence during a time of military service without a court order. If an eviction action is valid, the court is required to temporarily stay, in other words, put it on hold or delay the proceedings for up to 90 days. So, those of you who are uh, service members and you just getting caught up with some bills or whatever, and it's just you just hardship done fell on you. Um, while you are away serving your country, uh, your family are protected from evictions, and I'm pretty sure you know of that. For those of you uh, who are in home, ladies, children, or what have you, if you have any type of hardship of paying your rent and other bills, you please do. You need to contact that organization, service members, uh, protecting service members from eviction. Again, that is the Service Members Civil Relief Act of 2003, SCRA. Okay. So that's about all I had to share with them. We pretty much done covered everything, Chief Green. And so,
I just want
uh,
to add also, Mr. Hollis, to those who are listening and will probably
uh-huh.
listen to your show, is that we are dealing with some laws that have been around for decades. We're talking about some of these um, laws have been were enacted in the 60s and 70s,
Hmm.
and so here we are in 2023, and we're still dealing with some of the laws that were uh, passed in the early 60s and 70s, and
Uh-huh.
so that just goes to show you that we are very outdated in this system when it comes
Totally agree.
what it's in public housing. I don't know if you remember this show. There was a show with oh, Diane Carroll, I think she had like 8 kids. She was dating a guy who was a garbage man, and the people, the welfare lady came to the house, and she had, he had bought her a coffee pot, a toaster, and some other stuff. She
All right.
every time they came to the house, she ran to put this stuff up,
Hmm.
but then when the lady found out that she had a man who was contributing to the house,
Right.
he the lady told her that she could be evicted from her apartment because this was income she didn't report. Now we're talking about somebody who bought a toaster or a microwave or something, but here it is, she could be evicted from that apartment. And so uh,
Just
just think,
for those simple appliances.
just for those simple appliances, and just think that this was the reality back in the 60s and 70s, and we're still dealing with those same type of laws that are being enforced in 2023. And so this is why it's real important for people to go to the polls and vote in your local elections and the elections that impact you, because
Mhm.
these are things that are not being brought up uh, on our state level to change some of these laws, and these are also some of the things that are not being brought up on a federal level to change some of the laws that impact people of color. They don't
Right.
impact, so they definitely impact people who are definitely in a different income bracket than what we are.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, Chief Green, I know Sundays is always busy for us, especially when church is involved, and then you get dinner afterwards. I understand that you was in there cooking up a meal,
Yeah.
cooking up some dressings. You know,
Yeah, yeah. You know
uh,
what? I told my wife you, we always think of Thanksgiving and Christmas as a time that you cook dressing,
hmm
and I've been having this taste for some dressing, and I can cook. I don't need to go out and buy it. So
yeah,
I made myself some homemade dressing.
yeah.
Uh,
You kind of making my mouth water now. Yeah, dressings anytime, and not just Thanksgiving, but
yeah,
anytime. I totally agree. You
yes,
know,
sir. It is. Yes,
yeah.
sir. Well, I
Well,
definitely want to thank you.
I tell you, as I indicated, you got to bring me on your show sometime, and
Definitely, we will. Definitely, we will.
and I definitely want to get in contact with you again. You had some lady on your show back a while. I'd like to get with you and see if I can make some contact with her. It had something to do with the criminal justice system. I touched base with you on it.
Okay.
Uh, you
Okay.
know, probably sometime in the coming week. But as always, this is a base. We got to get we got to get your social to come on with us.
Oh yeah, my co-host Chief
Chief
Humphrey.
Humphrey.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we got to get him on. I like both. I like to have both of you gentlemen on.
Well, I tell you what.
Sometime in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I tell you what, we can definitely make that happen. Our podcast show comes on every Thursday at 6, and so I'll get with him and see if we can come on together. That
Oh
fits
yeah,
around.
excuse me. Tell a little bit about your show and when you come on your days and all. Forget about it. I dare don't want to close out without you sharing that information.
Yeah, so me and my co-host Chief Humphrey, who's the former police chief in Little Rock, Arkansas, we
Hmm.
started a podcast show about 3 years ago, right at the height of the pandemic.
Hmm.
It's called You and the Law
Same here.
Podcast.
Yeah.
You and the Law Podcast Show, and so we air live every Thursday at 6 p.m. We stream live on Facebook Live, and so we talk about topics that are related to the minority community that involves law enforcement, and so we are we talk about everything that a lot of people don't like talking about. And
Mhm.
so whether it's the good and the bad, we just don't talk about how good police officers are doing. If there's bad things that cops are doing, we talk about it. Just like what
Mhm.
happened with Tariq Nichols up in Memphis,
Mhm.
just like what happened with George Floyd in
Mhm.
Minneapolis. So yeah, I mean, for those who are listening, if you have time to tune into our podcast show live on Thursday, but we also our podcast shows are you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find our podcast show and subscribe to it and listen to our previous podcast shows.
Well, all right, Chief Green. As I stated, yeah, this is always a home base for you. If you
Well, thank you.
like to come on and you and I go ahead and converse on the various topics, that it be civil social justice or just anything to do with, justice come in many forms, educational.
Oh yeah.
We talking police and police reform, police and community relations. If we're talking now housing, everything that pretty much uh, uh, that comes into our life in this day and time, somewhere along the line, you're going to have an encounter with justice.
You
You
definitely
know,
will. You're going to have an encounter with a police officer, or you're going to have an encounter
I
with
agree.
somebody in the court system.
Mhm.
It's people just need to educate themselves, and I think your show is definitely that platform to educate people, to
I
give them
appreciate you.
information that they may not know about. Just like our podcast show is, it's a in an informative, educational platform to talk about what people's rights are when you are stopped by the police, what rights you have, what rights the police officers have, and what rights the police officers don't have. So
Mhm.
those are some of the things that we touch on just to make sure that our young men and women understand what their rights are when they're dealing with law enforcement.
Well, all right. Just want to go back here. We don't. I don't. I thought I'm always looking for a question before I tune out. Uh, don't see one. And so, again, Chief Green, may you have a remaining blessed, lovely Sunday. And
Well, thank you.
until we meet again, I want to say good night and God bless.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, no problem. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chief Virgil Green. As he indicated, he had been given a job at the Osceola police department back here. I don't know, it was about a year and a half or so, two or somewhere in there. Uh, of course, there was, I guess, some dispute down there with the hiring of Chief Green, and so it didn't happen. but nevertheless, you can't keep a good man down. Uh, he went from here back to Oklahoma, to where now he's in, I want to say, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Uh, I think I pronounced that right. Sometimes I get it backwards. Is it Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minneapolis, Minnesota? I get it backwards, but I think Minnesota's the state. But anyway, uh, but that's where he's at now. He's in Minnesota, and he's working as a chief of police there. He'd also have a podcast that he do, him and his friend, co-host, Chief Humphrey. He served it as a chief of police as well, uh, uh, around the Little Rock area. And so, again, to those tenants, I hope that you heard something that may help you. Uh, uh, if any situation that you have presently, and to where you have uh, been served with some eviction notice, or you got one pending, hopefully something was said to you that may give you hope, if nothing else, uh, to ask for a hearing. You are entitled to a hearing, okay? Hopefully they will give you that hearing, but nevertheless, do not be do not let them serve you with a 3-day notice to vacate, and you just completely ignore that 3-day notice. If you completely ignore that 3-day notice, it's kind of like you have waived your rights to be heard. If you want to be heard, if you feel like you've been evicted unfairly, then you need to respond to your landlord. That way you protect yourself. And then it's on the landlord now. If the landlord see that you are contesting the notice to vacate the property, then that's when he or she will start the eviction process by taking you to court, okay, where they will serve you with a summons and a complaint, and you will be given a court date to appear to answer to the court as to why you believe that you are unfairly being evicted. And if there is a case to where you uh, you lose your hearing, your case, uh, whereas the landlord or the property manager, they will be given what is called a, let me go over here and find it. They will be given what is called uh, a writ of execution. There go the word there. In order for the sheriff or the police uh, chief or police officer, they must have this writ of execution in their possession. The court normally grant this. When the court grant that writ of execution and the sheriff show up because you are still occupying the residence illegally, that's when they will, by force, remove you and your property. In most cases, when this writ is being served upon you, you probably don't have but 24 hours to vacate the premises. So that's my show for today. Uh, I was hoping that I was going to at least get one or two calls from tenants down in the Osceola area. Um, I don't know if they are afraid. If you was not looking on earlier, you have a right to file a complaint without any fears or retaliation from your landlord. If they threaten to evict you because you sign a petition, because you file a complaint, that in itself is a violation of the eviction laws. Okay. So that's all I have, ladies and gentlemen. I'm getting ready to shut down. Look like I'm 9 minutes over. Uh, so I'm gonna let you all get back to your NBA game if it still is playing. And I'm finna go in there and do the same. Play back the games that have already been played today. So I want to say peace and love to you all. God bless and good night.